His name was Elias, late 20s, smart enough to know something was wrong, not smart enough yet to know what. To the world outside, he looked fine. He showed up, he worked, he functioned, but there was something nobody could see. Elias was leaking. Not blood, not money, something older than both. Something the ancient world had a name for and the modern world had forgotten entirely. His vital force, his ojas, his prana, the sacred masculine energy that every great tradition, from brahmacharya to stoicism to the way of the warrior, had warned a man to guard above everything else. Elias had been hemorrhaging it for years, one quiet night at a time, one small surrender at a time, and the worst part, he did not even know he was losing a war. Every evening, Elias came home to the same ritual, the same dark apartment, the same blue screen light, the same cycle. He was not a bad man. He was not a weak man. He was a man who had never been handed a weapon against the one enemy that lived inside him. Swami Sivananda called this enemy the great illusion, the force that disguises destruction as pleasure, that wraps slavery in the feeling of freedom, that takes a man's most sacred energy and converts it into a 2-minute chemical reaction that leaves him emptier than before he started. Elias was caught in that cycle, and like every man caught in it, he had built an entire personality around the hollowness it produced. No real drive, no real focus, no real direction, just the gray man, the man whose fire has been slowly extinguished, one leak at a time, until what remains is just enough warmth to convince him he is still alive. If you have ever woken up after a night like that and felt something you could not name, not guilt exactly, but something older and heavier, hit that like button, because that feeling was not weakness. That was the warrior inside you, recognizing that something sacred had been wasted. One night, Elias put the phone down. Not dramatically, not with a speech or a decision or a moment of sudden inspiration. He just put it down, face first on the table, and sat in the silence. And something in that silence spoke to him. Not a voice, a recognition. The chaos he felt inside himself, the restlessness, the foggy mornings, the inability to sustain focus on anything that actually mattered. It was not the world's fault. It was not his circumstances. It was the leak. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." But Elias understood something deeper in that moment. A man cannot access the power over his mind if his most fundamental biological energy is being spent on nothing. Every drop of ojas lost is a withdrawal from the account that funds his clarity, his presence, his strength, his capacity to think and feel and build at the level he was designed for. Elias had been overdrawn for years. That night, he decided to stop the leak. Not for a challenge, not for a streak, for something older and more serious than both, his sovereignty.
The first weeks were a battlefield, not a metaphorical battlefield, a real one, fought entirely inside his own nervous system. His body screamed. His mind invented 1,000 reasonable justifications for why one more time would not matter. The demon did not arrive with fire and threats. and arrived the way it always arrives, quietly, reasonably, with a smile. This is what Epictetus meant when he said that the first and greatest victory is to conquer yourself, because the self does not surrender easily. It negotiates, it bargains, it waits until 2 a.m. when your resistance is lowest and your loneliness is loudest. Elias learned what the ancient practitioners of brahmacharya have always known. Retention is not the absence of desire, it is the mastery of it. The art of sitting with the fire without being consumed by it, of acknowledging the pull without obeying it. Every morning, Elias woke up, having won the night before, was a morning where something shifted, slightly, imperceptibly, but permanently. Drop in the comments right now, how many times have you almost made it through a difficult night only to give in at the last moment? What was the thought that broke you? Be honest. That thought is your enemy's strategy. Know it.
"30 days passed, then 60, then 90, and Elias began to notice things he could not fully explain. The fog that had lived behind his eyes for years started to lift. Not all at once, the way dawn breaks, gradually, then completely. His mind felt sharper, not because he had taken anything, because he had stopped losing something. The Ojas that had been leaking outward for years was now being retained, recycled, redirected upward through his system, the way Sivananda described, from the base of the spine to the crown of the head, fueling every function his body and mind depended on for peak performance. People started to notice, not because Elias told them what he was doing, because presence is not something you announce. It is something people feel before they understand it. His words carried weight they had not carried before. His stillness communicated something his speaking never had. David Deida would call this the depth of the masculine core, the quality of a man who is so rooted in himself that everything around him naturally organizes around his stillness. Elias was not performing confidence. He had stopped leaking the thing that confidence is built from, and what remained was something far more powerful than confidence: groundedness, the unshakable inner stability of a man who has chosen his own sovereignty over his own pleasure.
But here is what nobody tells you about the man who reclaims his power. The world does not always celebrate him. Elias discovered this too. The men around him, the ones still caught in the cycle, did not see his discipline and feel inspired. They felt exposed. His boundaries made them uncomfortable. His refusal to be distracted or seduced or pulled back into the old patterns read to them as arrogance. They called it pride. They called it him thinking he was better than everyone. Robert Bly would recognize this immediately. The wild man reclaimed always threatens the men who are still in the cage, not because he judges them, because his freedom reminds them of their imprisonment. Elias did not argue. He did not explain. He understood what Marcus Aurelius had understood 2,000 years before him. The opinion of those who have not done the work is not information. It is noise. And a man who has reclaimed his ojas does not spend it on noise. If you are the kind of man who is serious about this war, not just watching videos about it, but actually fighting it, subscribe to Lone Warriors. This is not a channel. It is a brotherhood of men who refuse to keep leaking. And we are just getting started.
The war Elias fought is real. It is happening right now, in your thoughts, in your habits, in the choices you make at 2 a.m. when nobody is watching. Evil does not need you to be a villain. It only needs you to be weak and distracted and leaking. The question is not whether the war is happening. The question is whether you will fight it or be used